A celestial beauty descended from the mountains to take on a disciple, and I, a man without a spiritual root, had the audacity to shamelessly claim that I possessed a great spirit root. Furthermore, I even dared to dismiss those gathered geniuses as nothing more than trash. In my desperate attempt to earn this immortal maiden's trust, I even performed a stunt where I shot down 6 birds at high noon, all to beg her to accept me as her disciple. Although my wish was not granted in the end, before she departed, she left me a cultivation manual regarding breathing techniques and mental cultivation. Drinking water? What could that possibly mean? What on earth is written in these characters? These are not even standard Han characters, but as a diehard fan of cultivation novels in my past life, how could such a minor obstacle stump me? My brain, filled with wild theories, began to race. This manual contains 10 pages in total. Perhaps they correspond to the 10 realms of cultivation? Could it be that each page represents a single stage? Pondering this, I immediately felt that I had grasped the key to the mystery. I could wait no longer and began to mimic the figure in the book, diving headlong into my practice. Half an incense stick later, I felt a dull ache in my lower abdomen. It was actually working. Just then, Auntie Tun from next door walked in, carrying 2 steamed buns. "Auntie, why did you enter without knocking?" "That brat, I'm not even afraid. What are you afraid of?" After speaking, Auntie Tun placed the buns on the table, gave me a few words of advice, and prepared to leave. As she walked away, she let out a long, weary sigh. It seemed that this boy had suffered quite a blow. He was even holding his book upside down without realizing it. Not long after, I realized something was terribly wrong. My entire body was drenched in blood. Could this be the sign of reaching the first level of qi refining, the beginning of the marrow cleansing and bone tempering process? Surely this black viscous filth must be the impurities being purged from my body. Thinking this, I happily went to wash myself clean. I took out a bronze mirror to inspect my reflection, only to see a wisp of black aura lingering between my brows. This must be the legendary 3 flowers gathering at the crown. Stepping out into the courtyard, I felt an immense sense of clarity and spirit. However, everything I looked at seemed to have double vision. It must be because my body has yet to adapt to the sudden surge of overwhelming power. "Hey, Auntie Wang, are you heading out to the fields?" "You brat, I'm Lear, your childhood friend." This child has truly suffered a profound mental blow. But what of that shadow looming ahead? Who else could it be but the master of your household? Hearing this, I could only shake my head in resignation, telling myself it was likely just dizziness playing tricks on my senses. 3 years have slipped away like water through one's fingers. I have committed the entirety of the manual to memory. Between bouts of diligent cultivation, I would take up my brush to refine the cultivation technique, making minor adjustments. I was even considerate enough to add annotations in Han characters for better clarity. Exhausted after a long morning of cultivation, I stood up and stretched my limbs, preparing to head to the fields to plow for Aunt Tun's family. But the moment I stepped out of the house, 2 figures suddenly emerged, skulking about in the back garden. They swiftly vaulted into my courtyard. Unaware of their presence, I remained oblivious. I continued to plow the fields with desperate intensity, for I had no other choice. I had accidentally killed the village's only plow ox with a single strike while practicing my martial arts. "Xiaoyun, why not take a short break?" What sort of joke is that? I don't know. As a dignified cultivator at the qi refining stage, must I take a break from merely plowing the fields? After laboriously tilling half an acre with my hoe, I finally collapsed onto the edge of the field to take a sip of water. I couldn't help but wonder what realms those others had reached by now. If someone without spiritual roots like me could reach the qi refining stage, they must have already achieved a breakthrough to the core formation realm. Perhaps they have even ascended to the nascent soul or spirit severing realms by now. "Xiaoyun, a scholar, has arrived in the village to teach. The village chief told me to summon you back immediately to welcome him." "Coming, I'm coming. In this day and age, finding a tutor is a truly rare and difficult task." I hurried with all my might to the village chief's house, finally arriving to meet the first scholar I had ever encountered. Throughout my 19 years of life, I quickly cupped my hands to perform the proper salutation to the scholar. The scholar seemed quite pleased and nodded in approval. "I have heard from the village chief that you are a diligent and eager student. I may be able to teach you a thing or two about literature and scholarly pursuits." Hearing this, my heart brimmed with joy. I dipped my finger into some tea and neatly traced a few characters onto the surface of the table. Might I ask if the scholar can read these characters for me? These 5 characters were Xuan Tianxi Refining Manual. Only 5 characters? What on earth is this? There were clearly 7 characters before. Is this not the peerless Great Tao technique? On the journey home, my mind drifted as if I were walking among the clouds. For 3 long years, I've been practicing it incorrectly. It was intended to be a cultivation method for absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. How did I manage to turn it into an internal martial art for tempering tendons and bones? It seems I have no choice but to take this manual to the master and seek guidance for every single character. At the same time, in Shijia village, right next to Shangba village, the 2 brothers, Shilong and Shihu, were staring excitedly at a cultivation manual in their hands, meticulously studying it character by character. "Big brother, why do these illustrations look like a turtle crawling?" "You know nothing. This is the essence of true refinement." The 2 fumbled and studied for a while, then began to imitate the figures depicted to begin their cultivation. Returning to my own situation, I had just arrived home to discover that the cultivation manual on my table had vanished into thin air. But I did not feel discouraged. Over the past 3 years, I had flipped through this manual thousands of times. I had memorized 80% of the contents. As for the remaining 20%, it was not difficult to deduce. I felt an itch in my mind, as if my very consciousness were undergoing a profound renovation and upgrade. Thus, I immediately found a branch and began to gesture and etch figures onto the mud wall. After an entire day of grueling work, I finally succeeded in reconstructing the manual. Although it differs slightly from the original, surely there will be no major issues. The original manual that the Immortal lady gave me could be considered the xianxia breathing technique 1.0. The version I supplemented previously was 2.0. No. As for this current version, I have decided to call it the 3.0 Peerless Edition. Those individuals at the Flying Sacred Grounds, they are still diligently practicing the obsolete version 1.0, while I have already upgraded to version 3.0. At this level, what right do you have to compare yourselves to me? My confidence surged to its peak, and unable to wait a moment longer, I began practicing the new technique immediately. Less than half an hour later, I felt the spiritual energy in my dantian erupt with a thunderous roar, and spiritual power surged through my blood. Could it be that I have achieved yet another breakthrough? The sensation of this surging power makes me feel as if I am invincible under the heavens. I stood up immediately and unleashed a punch directly toward the main gate. A thunderous explosion echoed, shaking the entire residence. The wooden door instantly shattered into countless splinters. It is truly too powerful. The door could not withstand the force, but that is of little consequence. However, I quickly realized another, far more serious problem. Why has the chi within my body suddenly vanished completely? After pondering this over and over again, I finally considered a possibility rumored throughout the world, that one must consume medicinal pills for cultivation to be effective. Perhaps it is because I have not yet taken any elixirs that my internal chi has dissipated so thoroughly. Determined to act, I grabbed a hoe from the courtyard and eagerly headed toward the mountains in search of treasures to refine into pills. Based on the experiences from my previous life, the more remote and untouched a place is, the more likely it is to harbor rare spiritual treasures. If there are a few fierce beasts guarding the area, then it is certain that a valuable prize awaits. However, as I passed by Shijiazhuang near the cliffs, a horrifying scene struck my eyes, causing cold sweat to pour down my face in sheer terror. Before me, within that small village, corpses lay scattered and strewn about everywhere, and the entire village was deathly silent, as if not a single soul had survived, even though I have lived through 2 lifetimes. I have never witnessed such a gruesome, blood-soaked scene before. Without a moment's hesitation, I fled for my life back toward my home. Heavens save me, that was absolutely terrifying. I was scared half to death. Was the person who just ran past Liu Xiaoyun? After a moment of hesitation, Bai Jing decided to proceed toward my small house. At this moment, I was huddled under my covers, trembling uncontrollably. He marched straight to the bed and flung the blanket aside to look within. "Sir, please save my life." Before the sir could even ask a single question, I poured out the entire story like a rapid-fire volley. "If that is all there is to it, why did you venture to Shijiazhuang? Someone from the Feixian Holy Land gifted me a manual for immortal cultivation. I felt my progress had stagnated these past few days, so I intended to head into the mountains to dig for spirit herbs." At that moment, he noticed the inscriptions and drawings on the wall. His face darkened instantly, speechless. "I do not know what kind of nonsensical gibberish this is." "Forget it," he sighed, his voice filled with weariness. The old man reached into his robes, produced a blue-covered manual, and handed it directly to me. "This is for you. From this day forward, stop practicing those miscellaneous cultivation methods." My eyes lit up, and I eagerly reached out with both hands to receive it. As for that so-called Haoshan longevity technique, it was better left behind. This was the Confucian school's Haran righteousness technique. By cultivating this, one could nurture a strand of noble righteous energy. This energy is inherently formless and colorless, yet it possesses miraculous utility when applied to one's actions. After offering a few words of explanation, the old man departed, leaving me alone to immerse myself in the study of this newly acquired manual. The core essence of the Haran righteousness technique is to act according to one's own heart. One can nurture righteous energy while tilling the fields, one can nurture it while washing clothes, and even teaching others can generate this righteous energy. Having grasped the logic behind the technique, I shouldered a hoe and began working the garden soil. As for venturing out into the world, that is never going to happen. Don't even dream of it. After only half a day, I could feel a strange current of energy emerging within my body. However, something felt amiss. The master claimed that righteous energy was formless and colorless, so why was this energy of mine glowing bright red? I furrowed my brow, retracted the energy, and began to sit in meditation to read. I murmured the verses of the Tao Te Ching to myself, committing them to memory. Half an hour passed, and I managed to refine a new strand of righteous energy, this one a vibrant, lush green. Still not right, I shifted my focus, idly fidgeting with 5 yellow items. Then wrapped myself in a blanket to nap, which produced a white-colored energy, before changing my posture, which resulted in a shade of azure blue. It was truly exhausting. After a few days of self-torture, my body had become nothing more than a living rainbow filled with every color from red and violet to yellow. The only thing I could not find was the formless and colorless energy the old man had described. This was truly hopeless. The technique must be flawed. It is often said that one should not easily impart the Tao, and these techniques provided by Master Bai must surely be cheap abridged knockoffs. Just then, a spark of inspiration ignited within my mind. I grabbed my brush and began to forge my own version of the Horan righteousness technique. This was version 2.0, upgraded by my own hand, and in just one day and one night, it was fundamentally complete. In the process, I even integrated the Xuantian breathing method of the Feixian Holy Land. One could say it had reached a realm of absolute perfection. That day, I was still diligently practicing my swordplay in the courtyard. Tell me, boy, the events at Shijiazhuang happened so long ago. Are you still too afraid to step foot outside your door? Master Bai, you do not understand. Every night for the past few days, I have been plagued by nightmares. The deaths of those villagers were truly too tragic. Liu Yun, a scholar, must cultivate the righteous energy of the heavens and earth. One must act with integrity and composure, fearing neither evil spirits nor bowing before the tyranny of the powerful. Teacher, if your wisdom is so profound, why not join me for a stroll to clear your mind? We shall remain within the confines of this village, and under no circumstances will I step beyond its borders. Finally, after an exhausting effort to persuade me, I remained stubborn, refusing to take a single step outside the small courtyard. Bai Jing could only grit his teeth and flick his sleeves in utter helplessness. In the decades he has spent teaching generations of students, he had never encountered anyone as obstinate and difficult to manage as this boy. Forget it, there is truly no reasoning with you. As Bai Jing walked toward the edge of the village, muttering to himself, his gaze suddenly sharpened, fixed upon the path leading outside. At a short distance, he observed a middle-aged man clad in shimmering silver armor, leisurely taking measured steps toward the village. The news has finally been leaked. Bai Jing let out a cold snort, dismissing the sight with indifference. A small village that had fostered 15 peerless geniuses was bound to attract the attention of others eventually. If not for the strict protection of the Feixian Saint Emperor, this remote, desolate backwater would have lost its peace long ago. A moment later, the general in white robes arrived directly before Bai Jing and shouted, "Which way is the residence of Liu Xiaoyun?" At that same moment, I, completely unaware of the impending chaos, was still calmly gathering the righteous energy of the heavens and earth. Suddenly, a dry, thunderous crash echoed as the gate of my courtyard was ruthlessly kicked off its hinges. "Are you Liu Xiaoyun?" Without waiting for a response, Chu Tianba strode arrogantly into the courtyard. Before I could even react or utter a word, he casually tossed a manual stained with old dried blood at my feet. "This is the 100 Battles God-Slaying Manual. I grant you exactly 3 days. If you can successfully enter the initial stage, you shall be entitled to join my 100 Battles God-Slaying army. If after 3 days you have made no progress, then your only path is death." Throughout this entire ordeal, I had not even managed to voice a single word of refusal. By the time I regained my composure and rushed out of the courtyard, the figure was nowhere to be seen on the road. What in the world is this? This is truly going too far. I never imagined that I would be targeted so early. For some reason, an image suddenly flickered into my mind. That old man named Bai, who insisted on... It seems that fellow is no simple character. If not, why would he be staring so intently at the Zhao Shen household? Could it be that this Zhao Shen possesses the aptitude of a great emperor? I shook my head vigorously, forcing myself to remain calm. For him to brazenly offer me a cultivation technique, he must have hidden malicious traps within its teachings. Fortunately, I possess an innate talent for refining cultivation techniques, but whether due to mounting pressure or sheer exhaustion, 2 days have passed and I have yet to even achieve the introductory stage. With his return to inspect my progress drawing near, my heart burned with anxiety. I felt a desperate urge to flee. Yet, if I were to leave, what would become of the villagers? Gazing at the moon hanging high outside my window, I found myself in a state of impossible dilemma. Very well, if it has come to this, I shall strike first to seize the advantage. Gritting my teeth, I drew the only firewood axe in the house. Beneath the dim moonlight, I silently crept toward the outskirts of the village. At that same moment, in the village head's quarters, the man surnamed Bai was reading by candlelight. He suddenly set his book down and looked out the window. It seems I misjudged him previously. This young man appears to have a bit of spirit after all, though it is a pity. This is a journey of no return. The mountain path is treacherous at night, yet I moved with the agility of a phantom, not making the slightest sound. Yet regardless of my caution, inside the tent atop the peak, the god of slaughter Chu Tianba suddenly snapped his eyes open. Although my movements were silent, he sensed the killing intent radiating from me with perfect precision. How interesting. I merely intended to pressure him, yet I never expected to force him into such a daring act of malice. Chu Tianba grasped the long spear at his side, and peering through a gap in the tent, he witnessed me crouching on the ground, pouring a heap of arsenic into his military cauldron. Commendable, you brat, daring to play such underhanded games. After emptying the poison, I dipped my finger into the pot and stirred it a few times to ensure it was well mixed. Finally, I placed my finger into my mouth to taste the concoction. Excellent, it is completely colorless and odorless. Even if I must perish here, I will ensure he suffers a fate worse than death. I swallowed hard, regulated my breathing, and with the firewood axe clutched in my hand, I silently advanced toward the military camp. Just as I stepped toward the entrance of the tent, a long spear suddenly lunged forth, thrusting directly at my throat. In a moment of panic, I could only raise my axe to shield my chest, and while I was fortunate enough to survive the strike, the blade in my hand snapped in two from the sheer force of the impact. Without a moment's hesitation, I immediately unleashed the infinity technique. Seeing that my blade was shattered, I transformed the sword into a claw and lunged, seizing Chu Tianba by the throat. He was battered into a daze and forced to retreat repeatedly, his heart filling with growing terror as the battle progressed. According to the intelligence he had received earlier, 15 cultivation geniuses had emerged in this remote region, and only a single youth in the entire village was considered a talentless waste. Initially, he had only intended to scout the situation, thinking he might scavenge some minor benefits for himself. Little did he expect that the one left behind was in truth a monster. The fearsome strength emanating from my grasp left his arm completely numb. If he continued to entangle himself here, it was certain that within a few more exchanges he would suffer a crushing defeat at my hands. No longer daring to hesitate, Chu Tianba turned around and sprinted toward the base of the mountain. The ability to sprint through the air proved that his opponent's cultivation was far from ordinary. Since I had already offended him, I could not allow the tiger to return to the mountains. With this thought, I set off in pursuit, trailing Chu Tianba like a shadow. The chase spanned a great distance, and in the blink of an eye, we had left the territory of Tianlong County. Damn it, is this fellow made of dogskin plaster? Why is he so persistent? Had he known this target was so difficult to handle, Chu Tianba would never have dared to provoke this plague god, even if it meant death. He fled while trembling, not daring to stop for even a single step, while I remained close behind, refusing to let him escape. The chase lasted for an entire day and night. Chu Tianba exhausted every ounce of his survival instinct, flying 10,000 miles before finally reaching the capital. Standing before Wangtian City, I watched his figure stagger and dash into the city walls. I stood outside, gasping for breath, but before I could regain my strength, dozens of soldiers clad in silver armor and fully equipped poured out from the city, accompanied by an old man who carried the air of a sage with a celestial demeanor. Truly, this is underhanded. He has actually resorted to calling for reinforcements. What is the meaning of this? Does he intend to abandon all reason and play dirty? Do you see that brat over there? Under no circumstances should he be allowed to escape. Looking at this group, it is clear they harbor no good intentions. I am not a fool. I had no intention of standing my ground, so I immediately turned and fled for my life. You damned old man, spare me. I still have an elderly mother and young children at home. If I die here, your sins will be heavy indeed. Keep hurling your insults, boy. The more you curse, the more invigorated this old man feels. I will count to 3. If you continue to flee, do not blame me for using my seniority to bully the young. That sprint alone must have spanned 10,000 miles at the very least. It was not until I reached a place known as the Devil's Abyss that the old man finally halted his pursuit. Even then, I dared not lower my guard for a single second, forcing myself to run another dozen kilometers before collapsing to the ground, gasping for breath. From this day forward, I shall remain in seclusion. I will not emerge until I am invincible. I scanned my surroundings to find nothing but a desolate wasteland, with a few dilapidated graves visible in the distance. My friend, I truly apologize. I know your circumstances are tragic, but I have nowhere else to hide. Do not blame me for this intrusion. With that said, I began to excavate the grave, moving the withered remains of its former occupant to the base of a nearby tree. After burying them with proper respect, I climbed inside, closed the coffin lid, and channeled a sliver of spirit energy to restore the disguise of the grave. Only then did a sense of security finally take hold, and as I lay down, exhaustion washed over me. After all, I had traversed more than 20,000 miles. My body was completely spent, stripped of every ounce of remaining strength. Thus, I quickly drifted into a deep sleep. However, I was entirely unaware that shortly after I closed my eyes, 2 mysterious figures appeared outside. Cloaked in black, they crouched low to the ground, moving with extreme caution. Uncle Master, this wind feels rather strange. The Devil's Abyss does not earn its reputation for nothing. If I hadn't accidentally obtained a cultivation manual specifically for suppressing one's aura, I wouldn't have set foot in this place even if it meant my death. The pair muttered amongst themselves as they approached the very grave in which I was concealed. Night is falling. We must find an old grave to hide in quickly, or we will not escape the night of the 100 ghosts. Fortunately, Murong Yue still possessed a modicum of conscience. She carefully gathered the bones from the coffin and moved them to the side. Senior, please forgive me. I have no intent to offend. Once I have escaped this tribulation, I will immediately return you to your resting place. On the other hand, the Uncle Master, Xianxia, showed no such refinement. He could not even be bothered to lift the lid to examine the interior properly. As soon as he pried a small gap open, he scrambled inside with unseemly haste. Once again, the vast graveyard descended into a terrifying, unnatural silence. Just then, while I was drifting between wakefulness and slumber, I turned over. Suddenly, a girl's surreal echoed in my ear. You are lying on my hair. My senses instantly became sharper than they had ever been. Even though the interior of the coffin was pitch black and devoid of visibility, I do not know what substance this young lady had applied to her face, but within that suffocating darkness, it emitted a faint, ethereal glow. Good heavens, a ghost. The sensation at that moment was enough to make my skin crawl with terror. In my previous life, I often spoke loudly of being grateful for nature's gifts, but now retribution had finally come knocking at my door. Where on earth did this chi refining stage cultivator come from? In the midst of his sheer panic, Tang Keiwei scrambled to sit bolt upright. Heavens, he was truly unfortunate, for his forehead slammed into the coffin lid with a resounding thud. Damn it, if news of this were to spread, my reputation would be ruined. I must silence him immediately. Yet, before his hands could even make contact with me, my body began to convulse violently. Then my eyes suddenly rolled back and I lost consciousness. Was this fellow truly that faint-hearted? Wake up, do not pretend to be dead. This impossible situation left him frozen for 5 seconds, completely at a loss as to how to react. After a long moment of hesitation, he let out a sigh and decided to let it go. For a distinguished expert to bully a mere chi-refining stage cultivator would only invite the mockery of the world. Thus the group remained in this awkward stalemate until the following morning. Waiting until the sun began to peek over the horizon, Tang Kewei finally crawled out of the coffin. But the moment he caught a clear look at my appearance, his fury ignited once more. I lay there in the coffin in tattered, ragged clothes, with nothing on my feet but a single straw shoe worn down to the sole. I looked every bit the part of a common beggar with no room for error. Tang Kewei clutched his stomach, retching as he struggled to process this reality. He could not bring himself to believe that he had spent the entire night sleeping beside a beggar. Just then Murong Yesha crawled out from the side. He let out a long yawn to shake off his fatigue, then looked toward Tang Kewei with a confused expression. "Uncle Master, why does your face look so pale?" Hearing this, Tang Kewei startled and hurriedly composed his spirit. He gave his sleeve a sharp, decisive flick, causing the coffin lid to fly back and seal shut as if nothing had ever happened. Afterward, he dragged over a massive boulder and placed it on top. Yet even that was not enough to put his mind at ease. He promptly affixed a gravity talisman onto the boulder and muttered, "Amitabha, how merciful, how merciful." Morongyo stood to the side, watching her martial uncle's inexplicable actions with utter astonishment. She could not help but wonder when her martial uncle had suddenly become a devout follower of Buddha. What could you possibly understand? This immortal lady is performing rites to deliver these tormented souls, sincerely guiding them toward their next reincarnation. Only long after they had departed did I finally regain consciousness. The sensation I felt could only be described as abysmal. It seems one truly should not sleep in a graveyard. Last night I had suffered through a nightmare of the most terrifying nature. I reached out to push the coffin lid open, but discovered that it was as hard as stone and refused to budge. This was truly not right at all. Had my chi-refining cultivation base truly regressed to such a pathetic state? I began to muster every ounce of my remaining strength to push with all my might. Yet the result remained unchanged. The coffin lid stayed perfectly still. I only intended to borrow this spot for a short rest. I never had any intention of staying here permanently. After unleashing an angry curse, I lay back down in frustration. However, the most unexpected turn of events was yet to come. 3 days later, they successfully obtained the rare snow lotus and returned to this very place once more. Morongye's face was flushed red with overwhelming excitement. With this snow lotus, her master could finally be saved. She turned to look at Sheng Kevi, who was standing beside her. For the past few days, her martial uncle had seemed despondent, his spirit clearly withered. Just yesterday, he had even styled his hair in an unusual manner, but the strangest occurrences were still to come. Only moments ago, he had even tied a piece of black mourning cloth onto his sleeve. "Martial uncle, you cannot wear such things casually. This is the mourning attire a woman wears when her husband has recently passed away. How can you be so certain that I haven't just lost my husband?" His mind seemed to have reached a complete dead end, yet Morong Yue did not dare to ask another word. At that moment, Sheng Kevi's face was filled with profound sorrow, as he silently cast away the old tombstone of the grave and replaced it with a brand new one. As he knelt on the ground, weeping bitterly, he personally carved the words "beloved husband" of the Xiaoyao sect's Tang onto the stone for the tomb of the pitiful little beggar. Hearing the deafening commotion from the outside, I, trapped within the tomb, proceeded to curse his ancestors for the next 8 generations. "Truly you are a despicable wretch who deserves death. Do not let me find out who you are. Once I escape this place, you had better prepare for your own ruin. It is as if the deepest pits of hell have emptied, and the demons have descended upon the mortal realm. A true devil is manifested in the world of men. You may shriek as you please, but I shall weep for my own misfortune. Those on the outside are struck with grief, but those trapped within are consumed by even greater despair." The weeping gradually faded into the distance, and the heart that had been pounding in my chest finally turned cold. Now my only path to survival is to achieve a breakthrough to the Foundation establishment stage. The tragedy is, how could this devilish abyss contain any spiritual energy? Everywhere I look, there is nothing but endless demonic aura. As I pondered this, a stroke of genius flashed through my mind. One simply needs to modify a technique designed to absorb spiritual energy so that it instead consumes demonic aura, a simple solution, is it not? But wait, that does not seem entirely correct. Once I leave this wretched place, how would I continue my cultivation? Then I shall play a high-stakes game. I will modify it directly to absorb the very air itself for cultivation. No sooner said than done. I immediately took out the Zhuanshan breathing manual, transcribed it carefully onto the coffin lid, and began the process of modification and improvement. After a grueling day and a half, the world's first cultivation technique capable of absorbing the air was officially born by my hands. Furthermore, practicing this technique requires precise coordination with the periodic table of elements, analyzing the composition of the atmosphere in every region, and even updating the PM25 particulate levels to make necessary adjustments. One could say the knowledge contained within is vast and boundless. Even an immortal descending from the heavens would surely shake their head in defeat. I opened my mouth and drew in a deep, refreshing breath, clearly sensing my strength soaring like a kite in a strong gale. I am truly a peerless genius. Let us see who dares to claim I lack spiritual roots in the future. My spiritual root is the air itself, the very void within the atmosphere. I let out a roar and drove my palms forward with all my might. Spiritual power surged like a tidal wave, shattering the grave mound so I could break free. Seeing the tombstone atop my grave made me so furious I could see stars. It is you who is the little Anne. Your entire family are the ones who are little Anne. Enraged, I kicked away the tombstone that Zhang Kaiyuli had erected. So it turns out that night was not a nightmare. Someone had taken advantage of my deep slumber to sneak into my bed. And after finishing their business, they attempted to kill me to silence the witness and escape their debts. Fortunately, I possess unparalleled talent, and thanks to the fourth iteration of the Zhuanshan breathing manual, I broke through to the Foundation establishment stage. It is only because of my great fortune that with that settled, I chose a direction at random to begin my journey. The first priority is to find a way to escape this wretched place. After wandering for 5 full days, an immense city finally appeared before my eyes. In this place, Foundation establishment cultivators are everywhere, and Golden Core experts are as common as street urchins. With that, I entered the city. The cultivators on the street shook their heads and sighed upon seeing me, noting that even a beggar here possessed a Foundation establishment cultivation base. It seems we must redouble our efforts in cultivation. Observe carefully, child. If you do not practice diligently, you will be left to fight for scraps with that Foundation establishment beggar. With a crisp chime, a refined lady passed by and casually tossed a spirit stone into my bowl. I froze for a moment, my expression one of utter bewilderment. Since when did I find myself holding a bowl in my hand? Surely you cannot be serious. Do you truly mistake me for a beggar? Damn it all, do I not have any self-respect? I angrily snatched the spirit stone from the bowl, stuffed it into my pocket, and sought out a clothing shop to purchase decent attire. While there, I caught wind of news that the Xiaoyao sect is recruiting new disciples. I must successfully become a disciple so that I may one day return to my hometown and bring honor to my family. Junior uncle, I won't take no for an answer. You absolutely must accompany me. Who knows, you might find a disciple who catches your eye this time. At this moment, within the Xiaoyao sect, Merong Yue had been throwing a tantrum outside Shangqiu's residence since the early dawn. She insisted that he escort her to the recruitment ceremony. By the time I managed to squeeze into the plaza, it was already a sea of people. Everyone had gathered here, hoping to try their luck. I pushed my way to the front, standing before a massive stone monument. Filled with anticipation, I placed my hand upon the testing stone. However, after waiting for half the day, the stone remained completely silent, showing no reaction whatsoever. This scene left the disciple in charge of the assessment wide-eyed with astonishment. In all his years of service, this was the first time he had encountered someone entirely devoid of spirit roots. I refused to accept this. I am at the Foundation establishment stage after all. How could it be that I possess no spirit roots? You must have performed the assessment incorrectly. I stubbornly hugged the stone. I refused to let go of that testing stone, even if it cost me my life. This behavior drew the attention of Shang Qiu, who was watching from the high platform. He felt a sense of familiarity emanating from this person, as if they had shared a romantic past to him. For a fleeting moment, he could not even recall who Yuer was. Fine, he thought, go fetch that boy for me, and before long he was dragged into the presence of Shang Kaiyu. I glanced at this woman out of the corner of my eye. To be honest, I was feeling incredibly irritated. I was currently busy with the trials to join the sect. I did not know why this wretched woman insisted on causing such a scene to summon me here. Well, it seems you are not very satisfied with me, are you? Fairy, why do you speak such strange words? I am merely a peasant who tills the fields. Looking at a beauty like you for too long might strain my eyes. For reasons unknown, every time Shang Kaiyu looked at the man before her, she felt a wave of inexplicable annoyance. Thus, a rather bizarre idea sprouted within her heart. She decided to take him on as her disciple just to have a pretext to torment him to her heart's content. I am Shankai, master of the 100 Flowers Peak. Do you wish to take me as your master? Does this apprenticeship come with any allowance? You will receive 10 low-grade spirit stones each month. Shankai struggled to suppress the fury rising within her, and I immediately replied with a cold tone, Master, please accept my respects. Your disciple bows to you. Seeing this, Shankai's complexion darkened like the bottom of a charred pot. She never expected that her illustrious reputation would be worth less than 10 measly, low-grade spirit stones. Observing that my new master's expression seemed less than pleasant, my heart skipped a beat. Had I perhaps overvalued my services? Master, your disciple is capable of managing both the guest hall and the kitchen. From tilling the fields and planting vegetables to herding cattle, I am proficient in all things. With 10 spirit stones a month, I guarantee that you will not be at a loss, Master. But before I could finish my sentence, Sheng Kaiyu had already grabbed Merong Yue by the collar and vanished into thin air. When I finally looked up to get a better view, there was no trace of my master left to be found. What in the world was that? Could it be that I had truly been abandoned? For the next half-month, I searched everywhere, but I could not locate the 100 Flowers Peak. With no other options, I had no choice but to drag myself back to the city of Immortals. Kind brothers and sisters, good-hearted uncles and aunties, I beg of you to have mercy. I am the head disciple of Master Sheng Kaiyu of the 100 Flowers Peak, begging others for a mere scrap of food to survive the day. Within a short fortnight, everyone in this immortal-seeking city had heard the news. A young beggar had suddenly appeared in the city, constantly claiming to be a disciple of Sheng Qiu from Baihua Peak. Word of this soon reached Sheng Qiyu's ears. Why, she wondered, was her fate so tragic? She immediately seized her sword, intent on descending the mountain to cleanse the sect of this disgrace. Yet, as ill luck would have it, she stopped at the threshold, turned to look at the spirit tablet in the main hall, and tears began to stream down her face. While keeping vigil for the departed, one is not permitted to leave the premises at will. She was forced to restrain her emotions, temporarily sparing that beastly wretch who was defiling the reputation of her sect. Meanwhile, at the foot of the mountain, I finally found work, with compensation that could only be described as exceptionally generous. "Come here, big sister. Look, a newcomer has arrived." Several lewd women laughed as they reached out to touch my face, leaving me pale with terror. As it turned out, it was only a position for a kitchen hand. "My dear lady, I only sell my talents, not my body." "Little brother, everyone who comes here starts by saying they only sell their talents." The woman smirked enigmatically, pulling a bag of spirit stones from her bosom and shaking it back and forth before me. "Oh, my kind sister, your judgment of character is truly impeccable." "No adjustments needed," I replied, swiftly snatching the bag from her hand. My professional proficiency skyrocketed instantly. "Is it not merely serving wine?" "I am quite skilled at this. Come, let us begin." "My good sister, I shall drink first. You may do as you please." After much enthusiastic back and forth, I finally managed to see that plump woman off by dusk. Every scene of this had been observed by the proprietress. "Xiaoyun, my judgment of people has never been wrong. You truly possess the aptitude to be the #1 handsome man. This immortal intends to cultivate you into a king, the premier male charmer within this Jiao sect realm." Hearing her words, I scratched my head, my face etched with deep concern. "Sister, my childhood friends, and even my childhood sweetheart, they may all become great emperors of this world in the future. If I do this, will I be smearing soot on their faces? Will it prevent them from ever holding their heads high in the world of cultivation?" Li Xiaoyun pondered for a moment upon hearing this. It was indeed a question worthy of reflection, though she only spent half a day considering it before a realization struck her. What a foolish boy. Where would he find an emperor or a childhood sweetheart? Little Yun, I do not believe you have anything to worry about regarding this matter. There is no shame in earning a living, after all. Just then, a maidservant rushed into the rear courtyard in a panic, searching for Sister Li. This is disaster. A guest named Zhang Jin is currently being utterly thrashed in the front. Word is the opposition possesses an incredibly formidable background. Hearing this, Li Qingqiu's expression grew grave, and she turned her gaze toward me. "Little Yun, this is the perfect opportunity to test your capabilities. Rest assured, Sister Li, I have this situation entirely within my grasp." With a flourish of my sleeve, I strode majestically toward the front courtyard. In Li Qingqiu's eyes, my retreating figure suddenly appeared extraordinarily tall and dignified. However, the moment I stepped into the private room, my expression changed instantly. "Little Rabbit, or rather second brother Wang, how on earth did you appear in a place like this? Meeting an old acquaintance while seeking one's fortune far from home? Ordinarily, this should be an occasion for immense celebration. But considering our current circumstances and status, something about this reunion feels incredibly wrong. If word of this reaches the villagers back home, I will not have enough face left to show myself. Forgive me, little brother. Better Little Rabbit dies than this humble Taoist. You truly are a troublesome little scoundrel. Little Rabbit, you've only been away from home for 3 years, and yet you've already learned the habit of frequenting brothels? If second uncle ever finds out, it would be a miracle if he doesn't break your legs." My opening preemptive strike left Wang Tu stunned and utterly speechless. In a state of panic, he could only stammer an explanation. "Second brother, I am representing the Lumkim sect to exchange pointers with the Tio Jiao sect. This is merely the standard procedure for entertaining guests." Upon hearing this, I also suddenly realized something was amiss. The look of panic on his face vanished instantly, replaced by a gaze filled with deep suspicion as he looked at me and asked, "Second brother, then why are you present in this establishment as well?" My expression stiffened for a moment. Seeing that he had exposed my charade, I no longer bothered to waste energy putting on an act. "Greetings, esteemed guest. Little Yun of the Fio Hugeng Pavilion is at your service and will exert his utmost effort for you." Wang Tu's face turned as black as soot, and he dragged me unceremoniously deeper into the room. Inside, in addition to Wang Tu, were 4 other young geniuses. At that moment, the 4 of them stared in stunned silence. A suffocating, awkward atmosphere silently permeated the room. Finally, a disciple of the Tio Jiao sect could tolerate it no longer and actively asked, "Junior Sister Ho Tian, might I ask who this gentleman is?" Wang Dushan shot me a glare that could burn through stone. With a cold tone, she said to Senior Brother Chu, "This is my good-for-nothing older brother. We were born of the same mother and raised on the same milk. I apologize for the embarrassment. Please do not mind his behavior. I told you not to laugh, so why does your face look like you are barely containing it?" Hearing me mumble by her side, Wang Dushan struck immediately. She twisted my waist, causing me a stinging pain. This reality was indeed a source of great humiliation. Outside the private room, Li Qingqiu remained on guard, and seeing there was no conflict within, he let out a sigh of relief. "Hey, you attendant, have you seen a beggar of any kind? He claims to be a disciple of Peak Master Tang from Baihua Peak. Oh heavens, how would a lowly servant like me be able to spot a disciple of Master Tang? Chief Morong, please come inside and have a drink." A flicker of disgust appeared in Morongyue's eyes. She carried her sword and continued walking, thinking, how strange, why is he nowhere to be found? He clearly said he was begging for food in this city. At this moment, inside the second-floor private room of Piaoxiang Pavilion, the atmosphere turned incredibly peculiar due to the arrival of a certain individual. The arrogant geniuses seated there grew restless, one by one offering excuses to depart. Once everyone had finally cleared out, Wang Duxian could no longer restrain herself and shouted, "Second brother Niu, hurry up and tell the truth. What exactly is going on?" I simply went on a long journey, and afterwards I lost my way and could not find my path back. I wandered here by accident and intended to earn some travel expenses. You expect me to believe it was just an accident? Do you even know how far this place is from Mon Mountain? Even for a cultivator using a flying shuttle, it would take half a month of travel. Do not tell me you walked all this way. After speaking, Wang Duxian covered her face in exasperation, deciding it was not worth the effort to ask further. She withdrew a pouch of spirit stones from her storage ring, shoved them directly into my hands, and instructed, "Second brother Niu, there are 50 spirit stones here. That is enough for you to hire a flying shuttle to return from here to the Southern Kingdom." Because she still had a mission to complete, she could not escort me home herself. Second brother Niu, if you encounter mountain bandits or villains, do not be stingy with your wealth. Simply discard your belongings and run to save your life. Just give them all these spirit stones. No one would bother with a fool like you anyway. I knew she meant well, but the more I listened, the more I felt something was not quite right. What did he mean by not lowering myself to the level of a fool? I intended to offer a further explanation, but Wang Duqian did not grant me a single opportunity. He strode away from the scene without a backward glance. The following morning, Li Xiaoyun sought me out with an air of profound mystery. She claimed she wished to broaden my professional knowledge and would lead me to meet a nascent soul powerhouse named Zhao Dingling to refine my skills in the arts of zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. I followed her, weaving through the winding streets. After turning through numerous alleys, we arrived at a courtyard concealed deep within the city. In the center of the grand hall sat a peerless beauty, composed and elegant, presiding over a tea table. My heart skipped a beat, and I hurriedly stepped forward, presenting a bracelet with a respectful bow as I said, "Sister Dingling, this is a humble gift I have prepared for our first meeting. Little Yun, you have been deceived. This bracelet is merely gold-plated on the surface, filled with nothing but scrap iron inside. How could you be so easily hoodwinked?" The shopkeeper was very clear with me. He told me this was an iron bracelet. Upon hearing this, Zhao Dingling choked on her tea. She looked at me with an expression of utter disbelief. Surely, she had never encountered anyone so brazen and shameless. Ultimately, out of respect for Madame Li, she reluctantly agreed to take me under her wing. Over the next half-month, I gradually grew close to everyone in this brothel. I soon discovered that none of their identities were as simple as they appeared. The Madame Li Qingqiu was in truth a spy planted by the Xinyue Kingdom, while the lead courtesan, Zhao Dingling, was an assassin for a secret organization. Even the 4 primary entertainers here were far from ordinary. Nevertheless, they bore no ill will toward me and instead vied to recruit me into their respective factions. Before long, I found myself in possession of 7 or 8 tokens of membership. Time drifted by in a tranquil, steady flow. By day, I would perform in the main hall of the Fragrant Pavilion, and in the afternoon, I would return to the Dingling Pavilion to study the zither. As for the evenings, I dedicated them to mastering the arts of assassination. Following the conclusion of our lesson that day, Zhao Dingling unexpectedly called me to stay behind. She commanded me to scout the defensive perimeters of the Water Mansion. "Sister Dingling, why must we target the Water Mansion? We are not the only ones within the Luang organization keeping a close watch on the Water Mansion. Rumor has it that the mansion conceals the Immortal piercing needle, one of the 3. Upon hearing the name Kotian Fuk Lok, my pupils suddenly constricted. It felt as though I had heard the name somewhere before, yet for a moment I could not recall it. I shook my head to clear the thought and stepped out of Fu Huang Pavilion, heading straight toward the city center. "Excuse me, friend, could you tell me the way to the Shui family manor?" The old man, holding a bundle of candied hawthorns, looked at me with a face full of suspicion. After all, I was clad in a pitch-black night traveler's outfit. "Young man, what business do you have at the Shui manor?" "This friend is quite honest. I am an assassin from Luang, and I have a mission there." The old man thought to himself, what kind of era is this, where an assassin could be so brazen? He truly did not know how to refuse the boy. "Just follow this street until the second intersection, then turn left. The largest manor there belongs to them." Hearing this, my eyes brightened, and I silently marveled at how many kind-hearted people still exist in this world. However, I did not expect that as soon as I departed, Zhao Dingling would appear with a look of deep doubt. "Did you notice anything unusual?" Looking at this girl, Xiaoling, there was nothing normal about her. From head to toe, there wasn't a single ordinary feature. Yet deep within her subconscious, there seemed to be a terrifying hidden killing intent. "Do you mean that the simple appearance was merely a performance?" "Not at all. I mean that this fellow is constantly restraining himself. In truth, he is an incredibly violent individual." At the second turning, I took a left. I counted the way while maneuvering through the streets, but after a few hundred meters, I suddenly froze in my tracks. At this moment, the main gate of the Shui Manor was tightly bolted. Even though several formation arrays were activated to completely isolate the interior from the outside world, I could still hear the sounds of slaughter echoing from within. A stream of fresh blood seeped out through the gap in the door, its vivid crimson hue reflecting upon my panicked face. I clutched my head in agony. This sensation was truly unbearable and maddening. "Hey, you little beggar, here is some osmanthus cake my house didn't finish. Why are you guarding the door again? Does my family owe you something? Wait here, I'll go to the kitchen and fry some chicken drumsticks for you." Every word spoken by the servant girl Vandoa from years ago suddenly appeared with striking clarity in my mind. Fresh blood trickled down the stone steps toward my feet. In my heart, I felt both terror and a strange surging excitement. Trembling, I pushed the door open to see who was inside. A masked cultivator within turned around to look at me. He had just opened his mouth to shout, intending to strike, when a long sword pierced through his throat. Inside the courtyard, a scene of carnage was unfolding everywhere. I swallowed hard, gripped my sword tightly, and continued deeper into the residence in search of Yun Duo. Yun Duo, are you still alive? Everywhere I walked, the ground beneath my feet was littered with the corpses of those robed in black. Although I am merely a support-type cultivator, thanks to the power of the 3-rest Dao soldier, I still managed to carve a path of blood through this chaotic fray. At that moment, inside a woodshed within the estate, a young girl was huddled in the corner, trembling with fear. It was Yun Duo, the very person I sought. Hearing someone call her name, she cautiously opened the door. But the moment she peered outside, she was met with a scene of absolute terror. She saw me standing in the middle of the corridor with vacant, hollow eyes, blood dripping steadily from the brim of my conical hat. Suddenly, that soulless gaze shifted to look directly at her. This bone-chilling sight was enough to strike such fear into Yun Duo that she fainted on the spot. Outside the small alley of the Shui estate, 2 figures wearing conical hats and cloaked in black robes sat crouching against the wall. These were the subordinates under the command of the assassin Li Miao of the Luo Wang organization. Has that kid not arrived yet? Still nothing? Could he have already made his way inside? If it weren't for my promise to Li Miao to take his disciple out for some experience, I would have charged in there long ago. Forget it, let us wait no longer. Follow me and we shall storm the estate. But at that precise moment, the great crimson doors swung open. A figure also wearing a conical hat similar to theirs stepped slowly out from the estate, carrying an unconscious young girl in his arms. Are you the disciple of Li Miao? Is that you, Senior Xiaoyao? You have finally arrived. It is filled with nothing but corpses in there. It is truly terrifying. Could it be that you are the one who slaughtered them all? I did not intend for this to happen. Upon hearing these words, Xiaoyao felt his scalp go numb. Is this the novice out for a stroll that old Li Miao spoke of? He cast a single glance into the estate and turned to flee immediately, without even the slightest hesitation. If the forces behind these men were to target me, they would surely hack me into 1,000 pieces. Regardless, this mission can now be considered finished. At this very moment, a barefoot woman appeared in the middle of the street, slowly approaching. With every step she took, a crisp melodic ringing of bells echoed through the air. I cast a calm glance toward her before reaching into my robe to pull out a small wind chime. Are you a member of the Listening Wind Pavilion? Indeed. Are you the only one who managed to survive and escape? I gave a stiff nod of acknowledgement. Have you secured the Immortal Seizing Mansion? Then again, never mind. Forget it. How could someone at the Foundation establishment stage like you possess such ability? Having said that, the woman darted forward and flew straight into the mansion. No sooner had the woman departed than a masked man, brandishing a mountain-splitting blade, rushed toward me. My lord, I am Yuhun of the Brocade Guard. This is my token. He merely glanced at it once before leaping directly into the water mansion. I took a deep breath to steady myself, then cradled Yun Duo and strolled leisurely toward Piaoxiang Pavilion. The towering watchtower of the city lord's mansion seemed to pierce through the clouds. At that moment, a young man was leaning against the tower's railing, witnessing the entire scene unfolding outside the water mansion. He was none other than Li Xing, the lord of Qiaxian City and the holy son of the Xiaoyao sect. This is truly interesting. A child with such miserable fortune that even the heavens and earth refuse to tolerate him. Tianji number 8, can you discern what kind of situation he is in? The target is not of this world. Upon hearing this, Li Xing narrowed his eyes, calculating. Check the target's fortune value immediately. System is currently scanning the fortune index. The target's fortune value is 999. Warning. Warning, data overload detected. The system is experiencing a code malfunction. Li Xing stood up abruptly, his entire body trembling uncontrollably. How could he possess such an immense amount of fortune? This is truly demonic. He stepped onto the railing and took a single stride. His figure instantly vanished from the watchtower. By the time he reappeared, he was standing directly in front of me. Friend, please stop. I am Li Xing, holy son of the Xiaoyao sect. He intended to use the excuse that the girl, Liu Xiaoyun, to first keep the young girl in custody, but I unexpectedly began searching through my robes to find the token of identity. That familiar gesture caused Li Xingge to momentarily pause in astonishment. I have found it, senior brother. I am indeed your junior brother. Li Xing could not believe his own eyes and leaned in closer to examine it carefully. Well done, kid. This truly is the medallion of the Xiaoyao sect. Are you truly the disciple of Uncle Master Shang? How could this be possible? Uncle Master Shang has never taken in any disciples before. Senior brother, after Master took me in, he returned to the sect. I kept losing my way and could not find the mountain gate, so I had no choice but to wander in this immortal-seeking city just to survive. Facing Liu Xiaoyun's tearful tale of woe, Li Xing felt absolutely no sympathy at all. This was because he had witnessed everything that had just transpired from start to finish. As for what Li Xingge was thinking, I naturally had no idea. I only knew to enthusiastically invite him for a warm drink, while shedding the night-traveling attire I was wearing. I led Li Xinghe directly toward the Piaoxiang Pavilion. Junior brother, where exactly is it that you work? Why, here at the Piaoxiang Pavilion, of course. We have arrived, Sister Li. I have brought a friend along. Please secure a private room for us. I strode confidently into the Piaoxiang Pavilion, casually handing over Yunduo, who I was holding in my arms, to Li Qingqiu. Just as Li Qingqiu took hold of the unconscious Yunduo, she looked up and caught sight of Li Xinghe, causing her to tremble uncontrollably from fear. Her legs gave way and she nearly collapsed. Qingqiu pays her respects to Saint Child Xing. Li Xing is not only a saint child of the Xiaoyao sect but also serves as the city lord of this immortal-seeking city. Therefore, he had naturally met Xiaoyun before. Saint Child Xing is actually your senior brother? That is correct. After speaking, I did not wait for her to react, simply pulling Li Xinghe by the hand and heading straight to a private room on the second floor. This series of outlandish actions had truly shaken Li Xinghe's entire worldview. Junior brother, do you really work in a place like this? What would happen if your master were to find out? Rest assured, senior brother, master is unaware of this matter. When you return to see the old man, remember to tell him to come here and bring me back. Li Xinghe's gaze toward me at that moment was filled with an odd expression. You expect Shanke Gui to come all the way to Piaoxiang Pavilion just to escort you back? You are truly bold enough to defy the heavens to even conceive of such a notion. And so the two of us continued to talk and laugh together. After many rounds of drinks, I guided the heavily intoxicated Li Xish to the entrance. Xiaomi, come over here quickly and settle the bill for young Master Xing. Brother Xiaoyun, Sister Li just gave instructions that young Master Xingyi is to be served completely free of charge. Hearing this, the corners of Li Xing's mouth, standing beside me, curled up with smug satisfaction. In this immortal Ascension City, who would dare charge the young city lord? In that case, do I get to keep a share of the commission? If there is no payment, where would your commission come from? Hearing that, I knew something was wrong. Was all my hard work for the entire night going to result in nothing but empty promises? I immediately pushed Xiaomi aside, then laughed heartily and draped my arm over Li Xingge's shoulder in a display of camaraderie. Senior brother, I have just negotiated with the owner. Out of respect for me, she will grant you a 30% discount. Just pay 20 spirit stones, and we shall call it settled. But junior brother, earlier I heard the young girl Xiaomi say at the entrance of Piaoxiang Pavilion. Li Xing stood dazed in the middle of the main street with a look of utter confusion, his heart feeling cold and hollow, for not only was there no fortune to be found, but he had inexplicably lost 20 spirit stones to this place. To make matters worse, he had to pay extra just to have someone accompany him for drinks. Damn it, I never expected to encounter swindlers in the world of cultivation. Back inside my room at Piaoxiang Pavilion, I took a book from my robes and began to flip through it. On the cover were large, crudely scrawled characters. Plan to apprehend the Sijiao sect at Baihua Peak. Meanwhile, Tang Wei was strolling through the sea of flowers. The scene was so beautiful, it was intoxicating. She walked step by step toward the foot of the mountain. Just then, a streak of sword light flashed across the sky. Murong Yue descended right beside her, quickly ran over, grabbed her aunt's arm, and asked, "Aunt, where are you rushing off to? Did I not previously take on a disciple? I am planning to head down the mountain to bring him back here." At the mere thought of that disciple begging on the streets of Immortal Ascension City, Tang Wei's cheeks trembled with rage. "Why not do this, Aunt? Let us simply choose someone else to be your disciple. We can just consider that fellow a lost cause. Yesterday I spent 300 spirit stones to acquire 2 geniuses from a nearby sect for you, Uncle Master." As she spoke, Murong Yue gestured toward the city lord's observation tower. Li Xing has stood there, witnessing the entire scene. He gripped the railing, laughing so hard he could barely stand upright. "Oh, Murong Yue. Who would have thought you would see a day like this?" Meanwhile, in a different turn of events at the Dingling Pavilion, Xiaoyun gazed toward the distant mountain ranges, inadvertently discovering a precious gem belonging to the Zhuge clan. "I want you to represent the Jinyue kingdom and contend for it." Moments later, at the tea house while serving tea, the proprietress took the opportunity to surreptitiously slip a note into my hand. Upon reading the contents of that paper, a sudden, chilling premonition washed over me. Could it be that all of them are conspiring to cast me aside? In the silence of the night, I stood by the cliff's edge, gazing toward the distant Xianxia bridge, my eyes reflecting the profound solitude of a lone bearer. Just as I had anticipated, the so-called Assembly of the Eight Great Powers was attended by me alone. On the very second day after my departure, a streak of azure sword light descended directly before the city gates. "We pay our respects to Peak Master Shang." Li Xingge's expression suddenly stiffened at this sight. Xing pays his respects to Uncle Master. Shang Kevi offered only a cold huff before striding directly toward the Piaoxiang Pavilion. Numerous peach blossom petals coalesced in his hand, forming a sharp rose-hued longsword. With the tip of his blade, he lifted Li Qingqiu's chin, demanding in a chilling tone, "Where is Liu Xiaoyun? Tell her to crawl out and meet me." Li Qiu shuddered in terror, her entire body trembling violently. The first thought that raced through her mind was that Liu Xiaoyun's identity as a spy had been exposed. "Peak Master Shang, I would never betray Xiaoyun. You may kill me instead." Instantly, Shang Kevi delivered a kick that sent Li Qingqiu flying, crashing through a wall and shattering it to pieces, hurling her straight into the backyard, her life or death unknown. Following this, Shankivi cast a sharp, sweeping glance over the crowd, his countenance looking incredibly grim. Within the entire Piaoxiang Pavilion, dozens of people stood with their heads bowed in silence. Not a single soul dared to utter a word. Standing behind Li Xinghe, the expression on his face was no better than that of Shang Kevi. It is often said that those in the pleasure quarters are heartless and that courtesans possess no sense of righteousness. Yet, the women here were willing to risk. At this very moment, a lackey rushed in, breathless, to report to Master Thang Fong. Someone saw Liu Xiaoyun just leave Immortal Bridge City. Which direction did he head? Reporting to Master Thang Fong, he headed toward the Wangshuan mountain range by the riverbank. At that moment, I stood there, scratching my head in utter confusion. The fissure on my forehead was spreading, and it felt as if my consciousness was about to undergo a massive transformation. Phew, if I keep this up for another half a year, I should reach my destination. Enough, I shall rest for today and resume my journey tomorrow. The Wangshuan mountain range was shrouded in thick miasma and teeming with rampant demonic beasts. On a precipitous cliff, an ancient leaning tree grew from a crevice, dangling several plump crimson spirit fruits. Suddenly, several streaks of sword light descended upon the cliff top, led by Zhu Qianming, the young peak master of Zhu Peak from the Xiaoyao sect. He had received a secret report days ago that a group would arrive to contend for the vermilion fruit, so he devised a plan to reap the rewards without lifting a finger. From Immortal Bridge City to this location, the fastest journey would take at least several days. Senior Brother Zhu, are you certain that someone will come to harvest the vermilion fruit? Rest assured, Junior Brother Jingyu, when I say it will happen, it is certain. No sooner had he finished speaking than his figure vanished, reappearing by the lake before diving deep into its abyssal depths. 5 days later, Junior Brothers, do not be impatient. Perhaps they were simply delayed on the road. Meanwhile, at the edge of the Wangshuan forest, after trekking for over a month, I had finally penetrated deep into the mountains. Unbeknownst to me, Yun Duo, the girl whose life I'd once saved, had appeared here. She gripped her longsword tightly, her eyes scanning the ground for the footprints of demonic beasts with keen vigilance. As it turned out, ever since learning that I had departed, Yun Duo had been unable to eat or sleep out of worry. To her, I was the only pillar of support she had left in this world. Thus, she resolved to travel far and wide to find me. As for finding me, it was not particularly difficult. Due to my cowardly nature and fear of death, I had been lingering around the outer perimeter of the forest, never daring to venture deep inside. Hey Yunduo, could we perhaps take a different path? This place looks far too terrifying. Hearing this, Yunduo resolutely kicked away a skull that lay before her. She gazed at Hua Luyun with eyes filled with utter disdain. At that exact moment, several streaks of swordlight tore through the sky, landing before the two of them in the blink of an eye. These people were none other than the ambushers. They were clearly none other than Zhu Xianming and his followers. They appeared in a wretched and filthy state. Their hair was disheveled, covered in leaves and grass like common beggars. Their appearance was so pathetic that it was beyond words. The one named Jing Yu was still lugging a mangled tree over his shoulder. Hanging from the branches were several radiant crimson spirit fruits, though their appearance was listless and devoid of any vitality. Hua Luyun, having waded through the water all this time, looked up and asked, "How did you end up in a place like this?" Only now did Hua Luyun recognize Chu Chanming. Was this not the young master who had accompanied the little rabbit to squander his wealth last time? Aye, young Master Chu, your timing is truly impeccable. Upon hearing this, the corners of Chu Qianming's mouth twitched incessantly. Truly, this was a misery that no one could ever fathom. How could he possibly admit that he had been submerged in the water for 5 whole days? Jingyu, why don't you present this vermilion fruit tree to Brother Liu Yun? Jingyu pursed his lips in hesitation, his expression filled with profound reluctance as he lowered the crooked tree he was carrying and dropped the bundle to the ground. How could he fail to understand the true intent behind this gesture? Chu Qianming was merely attempting to curry favor with the first king through Liu Yun. Liu Yun, if you happen to return home and meet your younger sister, please convey my regards to her. The group set off once more, taking flight in a desperate dash toward the Xiaoyao sect. Sword light streaked across the undulating mountain ranges. Just as they passed the stretch of the Wangshuan River, the entire group came to an abrupt halt. Before their eyes, strewn across the river bank, lay countless carcasses of demonic beasts. With a grave expression, Chu Qianming descended to the bank. He reached out to touch the mangled remains of a beast, his brows furrowing deep in contemplation. This sensation, it appears to be the Haran Righteous Qi manual of the Confucian school. At the mere mention of those words, the group exchanged meaningful glances. Their thoughts immediately turned to the senior brother from the Jinshu Academy. Yet, was the Haran Righteous Qi not supposed to be formless and intangible? Could we have misjudged the situation? There is no mistake, this aura is so upright, it is frightening. It is undoubtedly the Haran Righteous Qi, 100%. Those bookworms have no desire to cultivate for longevity, they only strive to leave their names in the annals of history. Because of this, they are obsessed with meddling in the affairs of others. Furthermore, it was only a short while ago, Master Yuanyun just paid a visit to our Xiaoyao sect. When we piece these events together, the conclusion becomes blindingly obvious. The Jinshu Academy has finally decided to take action against the demonic tribes. At this realization, everyone could not help but be deeply shaken. Chu Qianming, appearing utterly flustered, immediately mounted his sword and soared away, hurtling directly toward the Xiaoyao sect. Just exactly 8 vermilion fruits. Yun Duo, let us each take 4 of these fruits. Though she held the spirit fruit in her hand, Yun Duo had no appetite to eat it. The young girl carefully wrapped it in a handkerchief before gently storing it away in her storage ring. Half a day later, in a room at the Piaoxiang Pavilion, I took out the 5th edition of the Xuanchen breathing technique from my robes. No, I turned to the newly updated page. This section recorded a secret cloning technique, which was the very thing I had recently been researching. However, my clone appeared to be somewhat different from the conventional type. This clone did not manifest in the physical world. Instead, it existed entirely within my own consciousness. Truly, it was like seeing a ghost in broad daylight. I stared intently at the figure reflected in the bronze mirror. He glared back at me from within the mirror. Yet the unsettling part was that my own reflection bore a cold and sinister expression. Who exactly are you? I am your clone. Who else could I be? Ridiculous. I am inherently virtuous and honorable, not to mention brave, kind, and possessing the heart of a bodhisattva. How utterly laughable, truly absurd. Can you still not recognize your own true nature? I, Liu Xiaoyun, slammed the mirror face down onto the table and looked out the window, where Li Xinghe stood amidst the bustling street. He tilted his head to look up at Liu Xiaoyun. For a brief moment our eyes met, but we instantly averted our gazes. That strategist seemed somewhat evasive, and the cultivators in red armor behind Li Xinghe also withdrew their focus. They glanced up at the second-story window and asked, "Holy Son, is something the matter?" "It is nothing, but I have always felt that this boy is problematic." As they spoke, the two of them walked away, eventually disappearing into the distance at the end of the road. I pulled back my gaze and gently closed the window. I could sense that Li Xinghe had set his sights on something I possessed. Could it be because of this 5th edition of the Zhuanqian breathing technique? Or perhaps he has set his covetous eyes upon my body. While I was lost in idle speculation, a figure wearing a demon mask appeared behind me. This man is the head of the Luang network in Qiaxin City, a top-tier assassin known by the title Heavenly Wrath. He is also the greatest burden currently weighing upon me within the Xiaoyao sect. He commanded coldly, "The eldest sister of this sect, I require you to take a life." The target's name is Yue Yukin. As he spoke, he handed me a portrait and a small pouch of coins. I turned the portrait over. Upon seeing the words deeply carved into the back, my pupils constricted in shock. He is a disciple of the third prince of the Shangyue kingdom, Sheng Kedui. I abruptly raised my head, my gaze cold as I stared fixedly at Heavenly Wrath. "Excellency, are you unaware that I am also a disciple of Sheng Kedui?" Heavenly Wrath curled his lips into an enigmatic smile. "Of course I know you are the lead disciple of Sheng Kedui, and also a Fengling assassin of our Luang." The corner of my mouth twitched. Truly, before such a formidable master, my disguises were impossible to maintain. My hand tightened on the hilt of my sword before relaxing. Though my palms were slick with sweat, I maintained a feigned smile. "Lord Heavenly Wrath. Ah, that Yu Yukin is a close friend of mine. If you want me to act, you must increase the payment. Are there only these 50 spirit stones? If you will not do it, there are plenty of others fighting for the chance." Heavenly Wrath brushed my hand aside, flicked his sleeves, and headed downstairs. What a truly cruel jest. Taking the life of a prince, yet in his hands only 2,000 remain. Whatever he managed to embezzle, he considered his profit. Watching the figure of Heavenly Wrath fade into the distance, I crushed the coin pouch in my hand, my expression growing increasingly dark. A boundless killing intent seemed poised to erupt. At that same moment, within the Xiaoyao sect, Murong Yu's face was filled with anxiety. She hurriedly withdrew a portrait from her storage ring and handed it to Yue Yushin. "Junior brother, I have just received a secret message. Someone has spent 1,000,000 spirit stones at Luang to purchase your life." Upon hearing this, Yue Yukin's expression darkened as he asked, "Senior sister, did you manage to find out who accepted the mission?" "I heard that this time the assassin utilizes the Meteor Butterfly Sword and goes by the code name Meteor Rain." Saying this, both fell into a heavy silence. For just hearing that title alone, no matter how many spans of the mortal realm separated us, one could still perceive the absolute dominance inherent in its meaning. Now tasked with this mission, I wandered from one arena to the next, clutching the portrait of Nuit and Than. "Senior brother, have you seen the individuals in this painting?" "I have not. Move aside and stop hindering my view of the competition." "Beautiful senior sister, would you happen to know the path to Baihua Peak?" After circling the entire area with these inquiries, I had gained nothing. Just then, a disciple recognized Liu Xiaoyun and enthusiastically approached to greet him. He cast a wary glance around, then gestured for me to follow him toward the backstage area with an air of mystery. "Senior brother, have you noticed that something feels off about this sect tournament?" As his arm was gripped, Liu Xiaoyun felt his heart skip a beat, and cold sweat began to pour down his back. He thought to himself, could my plan to assassinate the junior disciples have already been exposed? "Senior brother, listen closely to the background music. They are engaged in a life-or-death duel, yet they are playing a melody of lovers' courtship." Upon hearing the disciples' observation, I turned my gaze toward those competing on the stage. Indeed, the atmosphere appeared far too intimate for a duel. "Senior brother, you are a man of profound cold-heartedness. All our hopes are pinned upon you. If we allow them to continue fighting in this manner, they will surely succumb to their affections and commit scandalous acts right here on the stage." As we spoke, we arrived at a small sound amplification formation, where a female disciple was currently lost in the melody of her own instrument. Move aside, move aside. This is nothing but a display of blinded foolish affection." The female disciple who had just been driven away felt the corners of her mouth curl into a cryptic smile. She stepped out of the formation and walked directly toward the main plaza. "Senior brothers and junior brothers, it is my honor to invite the chief disciple of Baihua Peak, Liu Xiaoyun, to grace us with a romantic performance." No sooner had her voice fallen than the entire assembly erupted into a state of stunned commotion. The position of chief disciple is unlike any other title. It represents the very face of the sect itself. For Liu Xiaoyun to commit such an act was no different than slapping xianxia across the face. After the female disciple finished speaking, her expression remained impassive as she stole a glance toward the tower. That was where Li Xinghe was positioned, and she cast him a look heavy with hidden meaning. Just then, Yu Yukon arrived at the plaza, his expression instantly darkening. Having already heard his fair share of rumors throughout the sect, he found it inconceivable that this senior brother, whom he had never even met, would dare to publicly engage in such a disgraceful act. Has this senior brother of mine lost his mind? Is he unaware that his master has become the laughingstock of the entire sect? I am certain your senior brother did not mean any harm. Zhou Lian, standing nearby, felt a spark of curiosity and looked toward the stage area. She broke free from Yu Yukon's grip and ran in that direction. At that precise moment, the sound of a zither suddenly resonated across the plaza. Yu Yukon's heart tightened, and he hurriedly gave chase to Zhou Lian's retreating figure. Simultaneously, the two disciples who had been flirting on the martial arena turned on each other, engaging in a life-or-death struggle in the blink of an eye. Atop the towering structure, Li Xinghe suddenly opened his eyes. He rose to his feet and soared directly toward Liu Xiaoyun. You conspire to sabotage the Xijiao sect's entrance ceremony. What exactly is your true intent? Having said this, Li Xing flicked his wrist, and the golden bell hanging from Liu Xiaoyun's silk sash was suddenly pulled into his grasp. If my eyes do not deceive me, this is the wind-chasing bell of the Tingfeng Pavilion. The Tingfeng Pavilion is an infamous intelligence organization, a demonic sect known to everyone. Wherever they tread, the land is stained with rivers of blood. Liu Xiaoyun, do you have any remaining defense for your actions? The entire plaza descended into chaos. Countless disciples followed Li Xing's lead, stepping forward to denounce Liu Xiaoyun. Meanwhile, the man sitting atop the stone pillar, lost in his music, appeared like a fragile boat amidst a tempestuous sea. Tiankai Diyun, Brother Yun, is the older brother of the first Facian Saint Emperor. Could you have been mistaken somewhere? The corner of Li Xingji's mouth curled into a sinister smile. Once he has set his sights on prey, no one escapes his grasp. As he spoke, he traced a pattern in the void with his hand, manifesting a massive mirror that reflected a landscape of lush green mountains and clear waters. The first phase of his plan was to expose the connection between Liu Xiaoyun, the Saint Emperor, and those mysterious geniuses, using psychological pressure to drive her into a dead end. Within the image, a flying vessel could be seen descending upon a desolate, ruined village. A disciple of the Xiaoyao sect entered the village, and upon seeing a woman washing clothes by the stream, he approached her. He opened his mouth to greet her auntie. May I inquire in which direction does the path to Shangba village lie? Who are you calling auntie? Your whole family are aunties. This lady is only 16 years of age, yet you dare open your mouth to call me auntie? Get out of my sight! The young man stood there, his face burning crimson with embarrassment. He could only wave his hands dismissively and slink deeper into the village. However, after asking everyone throughout the entire hamlet, there was not a single soul. Simultaneously, upon a desolate mountain not far away, Tian Nu, the foremost assassin, wore a grim expression. He clutched a map in his hand, constantly cross-referencing his position. The map clearly indicated that this location was the Shangba village, yet before him lay nothing but a frigid, desolate graveyard. In a fit of rage, he grabbed an old farmer who was heading up the mountain to gather firewood and, pointing at the mounds of earth and stone, demanded an answer. Where is it? Where is Shangba village? The old farmer, with a sharp blade pressed against his throat, was overcome with terror. What village are you referring to, Immortal? It seems you have mistaken the location. Tian Nu swung his blade, leaving a trail of vivid red blood. The old farmer's eyes widened in resentment as his trembling finger pointed directly at the assassin's face. I am your own ancestor. Before he could regain his composure, Tian Nu saw the horizon blanketed in a brilliant azure glow, with countless figures manifesting amidst the clouds. They descended one after another upon the small villages in the vicinity. It appeared they were frantically searching for traces of the Jinshu library. Tian Nu narrowed his eyes, filled with wariness. Not long ago, he had heard rumors that Master Bai Jing of the Jinju library had gone missing. He never expected the final destination to be this very place. Contemplating this, he looked down from the clouds at the vast expanse of land below. The immense terrain suddenly grew ethereal, as if part of a dream. It seemed that an unfathomable and terrifying danger was lying in wait, hidden from view. In another development, at the Xiaoyao sect's plaza, the sound of a zither resonated through the air. Li Xing suddenly turned to look at Liu Xiaoyun, his eyes filled with suspicion. In this world, there is no one who lacks a clear origin, yet how could Shangba village vanish without a trace so suddenly? Liu Xiaoyun, where do you truly come from? Hearing this, I slowly raised my head to look at him. This was the first time I had spoken since Li Xingge began his provocations. And I suppose it is impossible for a village filled with great emperors to exist. Yet, unfortunately for you, a piece of trash like me just had to show up, didn't it? A chill ran down Li Xingji's spine as he wiped the beads of sweat from his brow. His gaze remained locked onto mine, as if attempting to peer into the depths of my soul. Even if he could not uncover my background, it mattered little. As long as he could incite the world to exalt me before dragging me down into the abyss, he could still shatter my destiny just the same. Liu Xiaoyun, I discovered long ago that you were a wanted man during your time in the Southern Kingdom. The Grand Marshal of the Southern Kingdom himself, Shu Daoshan, pursued you from the Imperial City all the way to the Devil's Abyss. Tell me, At that time, you possessed only the cultivation of a mere foundation establishment rank. How could you possibly have returned from the Devil's Abyss alive? Could it be that I have long since been possessed by another soul? Meanwhile, at the border between the Southern Kingdom and the Xiaoyao sect, Grand Marshal Shu Daoshan stood gazing intently into the Devil's Abyss, where the cold abyssal winds howled with bone-chilling intensity. For reasons unknown, within this forbidden land saturated with death, several green sprouts had emerged at the edge of the pitch-black soil. He hesitated for a moment, yet ultimately decided to move forward. He slowly ventured deep into the Devil's Abyss. Inside the Xiaoyao sect, Li Xingei's expression sank cold as stagnant water. Damnation, what sort of monstrous past have I stumbled upon? He watched as Hua Liyun continued to play her zither with nonchalant grace. His scalp tingled as if struck by an electric current. It was an intangible form of suppression stemming from the unknown. Yet, as matters had reached this juncture, he understood clearly that there was no turning back. He swallowed hard to steady his nerves, then raised his voice to bark at Liu Xiaoyun. I care not how mysterious your past may be, but right here, beneath my very eyes, your collusion with the demonic path is clear, undeniable evidence. Li Xing let out a cold huff, brimming with feigned righteousness as he retrieved his transmission artifact and began issuing orders. The very next second, a massive defensive formation materialized, its light enveloping the entire city. Countless city guards surged forward to surround the Piaoxiang Pavilion. By order of the city lord, the entire immortal-seeking city is now under martial law. No one is permitted to leave. Any who defy this command shall be executed on the spot. Any who dare to incite chaos shall be struck down without mercy. In the main hall of the Piaoxiang Pavilion, soldiers in golden armor and the garrison troops stormed in like a torrential storm, immediately subduing the numerous young women within the establishment. Oh, kind sirs, what is the meaning of this? We heard nothing of the imperial court conducting a raid on the brothels today. In a heartbeat, the entire Piaoxiang Pavilion was seized, leaving no one behind, save for a few lucky souls who had slipped through the net, trembling as they stared at one another in the center of the hall. The Piaoxiang Pavilion housed hundreds, yet it turned out that only a few of us were innocent civilians, the rest were all undercover agents. After settling his business at Piaoxiang Pavilion, the commander in golden armor led his troops to a small house on the outskirts of the city. However, the moment the door was pushed open, the scene inside was enough to make anyone's hair stand on end. Within a courtyard of only a few dozen square meters, corpses lay scattered everywhere. From the walls to the tables, chairs, wooden doors, and even the beds, everything was splattered with fresh blood. Among the fallen were not only golden core and nascent soul cultivators, but even a great soul formation expert from the Siu sect had perished. Upon receiving this grim news at the plaza, Li Xinghe was so unsteady that he stumbled back, as if on the verge of collapse. Is it possible that you were the one who slaughtered them all? Senior brother, you are joking with me again. A lowly foundation establishment cultivator like me finds it an exhausting effort to even kill a chicken. At this moment, Li Xinghe's heart was filled with nothing but despair. His trump cards had all been laid bare and discarded. Not only had he failed to inflict a single scratch upon me, but he had inadvertently helped me further build my reputation. But now he had no presence of mind left to worry about such trivialities. The incident within the city was what truly made his head feel as though it would burst. After casting a profound look at Liu Xiaoyun, he immediately turned and flew on his sword, heading straight for Chushan City. Morong Yue, unable to endure the scornful gazes of those around her, chose to quietly depart to avoid further scrutiny. Only Yu Yukin chose to remain. He lifted the curtain and slowly approached me, offering a salute with extreme reverence. Yet he did not know that from the very first moment I laid eyes on him, I had already pulled out a portrait to begin a meticulous comparison. When that man caught sight of the painting in my hand, his entire body stiffened, his heart surging like a violent storm. So his own senior brother was actually the master of the Meteor Butterfly Sword, known by the alias Meteor Rain. What do you mean, fortunate? Sensing the tension, Yunduo hurriedly tugged at my sleeve to offer a reminder. Who exactly are you talking about? By then, I had finally regained my composure. With a dark gaze, I stared fixedly at Yayushin. I leaned close to Yunduo's ear and whispered, "Shall we just kill him?" But I'm a bit apprehensive. Yunduo, why don't you go first? But what are we to do if I cannot defeat him? I have already accepted his payment, a full 50 spirit stones. Hearing these two, the expression on Yoyukin's face was now beyond hideous. He continuously gestured toward Zhou Lianhong, desperately seeking an ally. Come here to me quickly, Zhou Lianhong. Senior brother, the second senior brother intends to flee. Yoyukin froze in utter speechlessness. He was truly left stunned in his tracks.